Hi all, I'm Libby, proud captain of Millwall Lionesses. Thank you to our Millwall fan show from the No One Likes Us Talking team for sponsoring me this year. Make sure you give them a listen like I do. Or even better, why not sponsor a Lioness while you're at it like they do? Thank you always for your continued support.
This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It's the 19th show of COVID-19 reducing in lockdown 3.0 here in England. I'm your host, James Kelly, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Patricia Maslin, Gary Staff and Ted Robinson.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Firstly, before I turn to the panel, there are a few announcements to be made. The Lions Food Hub, based in Rennie and Manor Estate Tenants and Residents Association Hall in Bermondsey, are looking for food and financial support. To help them, you can find Lions Food Hub on Twitter and Facebook, or enter Lions Food Hub Banquet, that's BANKUET, into your browser and make a one-off or regular donation. Michael Cole, 36, a lifelong Lions fan and son of former Millwall employee Mark, had been given 2 months to live, but is currently in Guy's Hospital and receiving morphine and radiotherapy, which, along with his chemotherapy, could extend his life for a year. However, Michael's friend Kevin Lott is raising money for Michael to be able to afford private treatment, which could give him the opportunity to live for many more years. Any donation, big or small, would be a huge help towards Michael's treatment and is appreciated by his family and friends. For more information and to donate, insert fundraiser by Kevin Lott, supporting Mike Cole into your browser, and a link will appear to where you can make a donation. We talk of the Proper Blokes Club every week on the show and say that founder Scott Johnson is working to remove the stigma surrounding men's mental health with walk and talk groups. Well, here is Jeremy BM, a member of the group, telling us why he joined them.
Someone earlier today mentioned to me that something apparently King David said, and it rang true for me so well I just thought I'd pinch his words. After waiting patiently, he turned to me and he heard my cry. He lifted me out of the pit, out of the mud and the mire, and he set my feet on a rock. He gave me a firm place to stand. And that summed up the group for me. Many of us have waited for someone to talk or listen. And then in this group, blokes will turn to you and they will hear you. And they will try and help lift you out of any mental pit or mud that you're in. They'll do their best to set your feet on a rock and give you a firm place to stand.
Jeremy also told us what joining the group is like.
It doesn't matter if you live in the area or not, come along. If you want a safe place to just chat about anything, nothing, it doesn't really matter to us, whatever. If you want to unload to someone about a pit that you're in, we'll listen without any judgment, whatever your background, whatever your situation, however you got there, don't matter. If you've been through it all, you've come out the other side and you want to support some others, come along, because why wouldn't you? Or if you just want to get out of the house, you just want to walk and you want to talk, that's what it says on the tin. Come along, guys, you know you want to. Stay safe.
Thanks, Jeremy. So, guys, go and have a walk and talk either on a Sunday at 6:30 or Thursday at 6 p.m, or even both. It really will make a difference. Evening, Pat. How's things going?
Not too bad here. Jogging along, waiting for the end of lockdown. We'll get back in the pub without masks, and yeah, it'd be nice.
We're nearly there. Gary, what did you make of Millwall's end of season this week?
Oh, cheers. You didn't give Pat that one first, did you? Thanks. Oh. Right, I was actually just thinking about that. And to be honest, I thought for about half an hour of the first half, I thought we actually played some lovely football and probably should have been well and truly in the game. And then we obviously got back into it 2-1 just after half time. And then the wheels fell off. It was like there was no effort. And I don't even think Coventry had any effort. They just seemed to score another 4 goals without even trying. I think it was the one from the corner when it just hit someone's leg. We never get that luck, but I don't know. It was just one of those weird end of season games where once, like Bart said, Bristol didn't turn up, and you knew as soon as he said that was coming to bite us back on the bum. So, look, it's the last game of the season. It's gone. It's forgotten about. All I look forward to is sitting back in the dock as Block 15 on, is it August the 9th?
Something like that, yeah. Evening, Ted. What are your thoughts?
Evening, James. Well, I'll echo a bit what Gary just said there. Forget about that last game. Let's look forward to the 9th of August. It was a strange game to watch, I must admit, because that was pretty unlike us for this season, I must admit. I think Carl Bates said in commentary that if we'd had a good defensive record in that game, good game defensive-wise, we would have broken the record that we've had a defensive sense of giving goals away for 80-odd years or something like that, he said. So we know we've been good defensively all season, really, and that's what's kept us into the position that we are in. We know our problems is up the other end and not scoring. But as I say, echoing what Gary said, I'll forget about that now. If you just said to me the start of the season we'd have finished 11th, I'd have bit your hands off, to be quite honest. So I'll happily settle with that, James, and look forward to next season with a lot of anticipation.
I mean, Pat, I'm here. Obviously, I've seen a lot of Mill fans that were really annoyed with how we ended the season. But to me, I feel like it was just, a game that it was just a freak result, and it doesn't actually take away the fact that we've actually done pretty well this season, given what we had to go through. No fans in the stadiums, injuries left, right, and centre. So could you sort of agree with any of that, or?
Not really. I mean, Bristol the week before, we all had to go at them. They've all gone on holiday. They've forgotten about the football. Poor game. We did exactly the same. There was no excuse for that performance, and that will go in my top 3 worst games I've seen in 50 years of going. I think I won't forget it. I know you're all saying, "No, let's forget it. Let's move on." I won't ever forget how poor that was. That was absolutely disgusting, and I'm glad Rowett looked as embarrassed as what I felt. Well,
I mean, Pat, you're right to criticise the performance. We all criticise it. It was as pathetic as it can get. I mean, it was a bit strange, like Gary said. There was things where the ball just hit the goal and it went in. I don't know where Bart was for that, but he certainly wasn't in the right place. There was lots of things that was wrong within the game and the way that Millwall played for that one game. But there is a saying you're only as good as your last game. But I can tell you something. Come the 9th of August, that will not be what Millwall looks like out on a football field. And them players that are out there and played like that for that one-off game have been pretty good for me for most of the season. As I say,
I'm not saying they're not, but we're talking about one game,
exactly.
And that game was poor, and you have to stand up and say that was embarrassing.
We've said all that.
Exactly. But you can't sit there and say you disagree then.
No, but you're saying it as if and stating it like they're going to come out the next game and be like that. You have to take.
No, I didn't say that. You're reading stuff into things I've not said.
But I've said exactly what you said. I said I agree. I don't like losing any football match. I don't like sitting there watching my team collapse like they did on Saturday. Nobody likes that. But overall, for this season, if you take it overall as a team and as where Gary Rowett's taking us and that, I think it's been pretty good.
Well, that wasn't the question I got asked.
But that game was inexcusable. Nobody can't make excuses for a 6-1 defeat in the way that it was, and I wouldn't dream of doing it. But you've got to be honest, Pat. You've been critical of Gary Rowett throughout the season, and you jump on one individual game like it's a whole season.
But you always bring this up. I have never once said he should leave. He was the one I wanted right at the very start when we was interviewing managers. Now, I'm still in the air about him. He's had a bad season. We've all had a bad season with COVID. I'm prepared to give him another season. I'm prepared to see who he buys during the close season. As I said, repeat myself, I have never once said he should go. So where you're bringing all that from, I don't know. I'm critical, but then I'm if the cap fits, let's wear it. But I think you're wrong what you think I think about Gary Rowett.
I think that you think.
Yeah.
No, I listen, as I say, at the end of a season, you have to look at the whole season, and if we're going to be analysing the whole season, then, there was strange times we started fairly well when we normally don't, and then all of a sudden we had that sort of period in the middle of the season, which sort of did coincide with Gary Rowett getting COVID and the team getting COVID, and I'm not making that as an excuse either. It just seemed to happen at the same time, and we was pretty poor for a run of about 10, 15 games. Or we wasn't doing much for in 10 or 15 games. So if you look at that and then think to yourself, well, we finished 11th, we couldn't have been that bad in the other parts of the season, could we? And I genuinely believe, and I said it at the weekend, if you look at the solid foundation that we've got and the people we brought in January in Cliftonfield and Evans, if we just get it right at the other end of the pitch where we failed last year with Troy Parrott, if we get that guy up the other end of the pitch that's going to get us 20-odd goals in a season, we're going to be knocking on the door next year of promotion, without a doubt, in my opinion.
Now James regrets asking me.
Oh, not at all. Not at all, Pat. Love hearing the views.
I think as well, just to
go on,
try to Ted what's saying. I do feel because of the lack of support for Hutchinson and Cooper, we do need a stronger new head in there. I know Pearce is good and know he's experienced, but I think we need maybe another one. Be that Mitchell, who's out of Bromley at the moment, who we're really going to talk about later on. But I don't know. I think we need another secure player in there as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. Obviously, it wasn't the end we wanted, but I think overall you got to look at how obviously with the factors that we've had this season, being with no fans, having loads of injuries, and again to finish 11th without a recognised striker is pretty good going, I have to say. So I'm really looking forward to the upcoming season and to seeing who Rowett brings in and how we strengthen the squad in individual ways. So yeah, I think the only way really is up, to be honest. Yeah, we're going to take a break from there and we'll be back with our first guest this evening. But for now, let's listen to what the Fantastic Fanatics can offer to our club.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing and you could win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm James Kelly and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Patricia Maslin, Gary Staff and Ted Robinson. A friend of mine signed up for Fantastic Fanatics online and raised £50 for joining and making a £10 deposit on a bookmaker's site. Great return and he got his tenner refunded. Our first guest tonight was born in Dublin but raised in London. He spent nearly a quarter of a century of what became his club as a player, Millwall, and the club that he is also a fan of. And after almost 400 senior games, he left as a legend. Currently, he's a player coach at Bromley. He joined the Millwall youth set-up at the age of 8, rose through the ranks to eventually become a player who epitomised the club, as his wholehearted approach resonated with the denizens. He became our captain and player of the year, but as his book says, he done it the hard way. Let's say hello and welcome Alan Dunne to the virtual studio.
Good evening, gents.
Hello, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Good evening.
Hi, Alan.
There was one mistake in that little intro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been moved from the coach now to assistant manager at Bromley. Obviously.
Congratulations!
Congratulations, Alan.
Whoa.
You do realise it's now all your fault, Al?
I know. Neil Smith left. We was in 7th, and a great guy brought me in, and the chairman decided to part ways, and I've stepped up with Andy Woodman, who's come from Arsenal, has taken me in as his assistant, and I'm now a new role in it. But the season's still continuing as on, but with 3 games to go. But yeah, I'm assistant manager now, which is a new role for me. which I'm excited about.
It's nice to know who our next Millwall manager and
I was just about to say the same.
Alan, before I let the team chat to you, still a few good matches for Bromley left to play. How are your hopes for the playoffs?
Yeah, we've got 3 games left. We travel to Notts County tomorrow, and a difficult game. It's very tight in the National League in between 4 and 7. Obviously, the team who wins it goes up, and then the rest are in the playoffs. And we're in just outside the playoffs. So 3 games to go. We've got 2 away, Notts County Aldershot, and then Notts County at home last game of the season, where we're allowed fans. So, yeah, I think 4 points for us will get us in the playoffs. It's really, we're very close, but still got a lot of work to do.
It's Pat here, Alan. I see our towering centre-back, Alex Mitchell, came off injured against Wiltshire. He stepped into the boots of our own Byron Webster. How is Alex doing, and can you extend his 28-day loan if need be?
Well, Alex got a bit of banter today because Alex come off injured the other day, and you've got me as assistant and Roger Johnson as first team coach, and he came off injured, and we thought it was serious, and then today he trained. Oh. So we've said to him, we've given him a bit of banter today, going, we've never come off with an injury. You're from Millwall, that shouldn't happen, Alex, because you're meant to be hard. He's only a young kid, but Alex Mitchell, I watched in a 23s game and not long ago, and he stood out for me. I went and watched it with Roger against Swansea, and Robbo had told me about him, and I hadn't seen him before because he'd been injured before. He's an ex-rower. I really liked him. Skinhead, head it, kick it, really aggressive, and no nonsense. And he's came into us and playing first team football, real men's football, and since he's came in the 2-3 games he's played in, he's done exceptionally well. And yeah, what I like about Alex and is we travelled away the other day to an away trip. He's only 19. He stays in Diggs. He's from Southend. We had an away trip. I think it might have been not Chesterfield or Torquay away it was. And he's come from Millwall, and we got home at 1 a.m. Everyone gets in their cars and it goes home. And there was one lad who stayed behind to help pack up the kit off the coach at 1 a.m. into the ground, and that was Alex Mitchell. And I see that, and I thought, you know what? He's had a good upbringing, and that's what Millwall's about. They're grounded people, and you're taught that. To all the boys had gone home, and he stayed behind on his own thingy and helped take all the kit off the coach and pack it into the stadium. And I thought, full respect to Millwall, who's brought him up, and full respect to his parents, because I think it shows a lot of what a person you are.
I don't know what to make of him, Al. You've made him sound like a big, tough, macho guy and that, who might get injured if you sneeze on him.
Yeah, no, he's very grand, he's a good young lad, and he's done well for us. And can we extend his loan? I think he'll be here till the end of the season, and I still think he needs another year in this league. I think he'll play in Millwall's first team. I really believe he will, because he's got that hunger and desire and that attitude you need to be a Millwall player.
Alan, you're saying about that. I was listening to Byron on the Wall Talk thing today, and he was saying some players are protected and they're not given a chance to actually be that grounded player. Like, they're just protected from everything. They're not shown the hard grit of a hard tackle. You're just describing what Millwall's typically is, and the type of players that we bring forward. And there's too many players in the Premier League who don't understand this, and they don't get it.
Of course, 23's football is it couldn't be any further away than first team football. But I'm always looking at Millwall, I'm looking at local clubs, and I'm looking for players that have got something different. I mean, they've all got ability, but they wouldn't be there. But I need more than that. I need to know that on a Saturday you're getting beat, or on a Saturday it's not going well, and you ain't going to throw the towel in. Things in football don't go as planned a lot of the time. So you need players that can sustain and understand that when it ain't going well, you're still going to put yourself up for it. A bit like myself, and when we was at Mill, me, Robbo and the boys, we'd always put ourselves up for the next game, no matter how bad it was or how bad we were playing. And I look for that in players, that mentality, as if Could he do it if things ain't going right well for you? Because it's easy when it's going well, isn't it? If football's easy when it's going well, because it's an easy game. But when it ain't going well, which is, it might happen, you're losing or you're getting beat or the crowd's on you, who can step up then and be a leader? Who can step up then and take and go, do you know what, I'm gonna show them. And I see that in Alex in a 23s game. When no one else was there, it was only me, because no one else was allowed in the ground. And Millwall let me in to watch him because they wanted me to have a look at him. And I see him chase a ball down that he was never going to get in a million years. He was never going to get this ball. Yeah, it was going out, and he chased it all the way into Calmont Road. He almost ended up over the fence. And I thought that's me. That's the sort of player I like. He chased down, and we all like that as Millwall fans. He'll chase that ball down, and no one else is thinking it's going in, but he'll chase it down and almost run into the fence to get the ball. And I went, do you know what? I'll take that. He shows he's got that Millwall heart. I'll take him. I know I can rely on him on a Saturday if things ain't going well.
That sort of leads me into my next question now. So basically, talking about strong leaders and characters in the dressing room, like got Morrow, Fordy, Robbo, yourself. Jermaine Easter and Alfred Pavey said that was the strong character that grew that team. And you start talking about characters. Talk about Steve and those guys and how they influenced you as well.
We were brought up with it in the Mill DNA. So the Mill DNA, I was told to sort of understudy Muscat. I mean, what an understudy that.
Wow. That explains it all well.
His first game he got sent off. And I was told to understudy that. So. But we was taught up to understand about winning and to be honesty, winning under no cost, a mentality to win and be honest, and as brutal as it is, honesty went a long way, and we was told to be honest and play for the shirt. And I think that's how we were. We were boys that would lead the young boys into look, whatever you got to do to win a football game, you do. And sometimes people don't want to hear the truth, and truth can hurt sometimes. But we were brutally honest in terms of trying to get the best out of each other and drive each other day in, day out. And if that meant falling out, that meant fighting or having a scrap, we would do it. Because at the end of the week, everyone was going for the same goal, which was to win a football game. And I think that was what we was about. We were vicious, but we were fair and we were honest, and we all wanted the same thing. Saturday come, we want to win the football game for the fans and for the club, because that's what we were paid for.
Al, coming back to your new position, assistant manager with Bromley, it's not a bad position to be in with the players, because you've got the 2 games against Notts County, like you said, which turns it into a sort of mini playoff before the playoffs, in a sense. What's it going to be like with the likes of Liam Trotter and Byram's injured at the moment, are you? But what's it like having Liam back amongst your ranks? And I always liked Liam as a player. Has he moved into the back 4 now, Al? No.
Liam was out in America. He was playing out in Orlando, I think, with Richard Chaplow for Orange County.
I thought you were going to say Mickey Mouse then, but yeah.
Disney. He was at Orange County with Richard Chaplow, who's a friend of mine from Mill as well. And I'd keep an eye on Liam, and he went out for that American trip, and he got injured, and it didn't work out for him. But I knew that Liam still had was still a good player who had so much about him, and obviously Webster I knew well, and they come with wealth and experience, and they've come into our squad this year and helped the young lads, and they're players I know that I can trust. They've had the Mill DNA in them, so I know they're the sort of players I want around the club. They're good people, good honest people who've got a pedigree and have got the Millwall DNA, and they're the sort of people we want at the Bromley club to not only help the first team, but to help and benefit the young players coming through. It were no-brainers for us. Trotz has been exceptional this year. In the middle of the park, he's one of the best players in the league. Exceptional. Webster, until he got injured, exceptional centre-half with experience. We played Stockport away, and he had a really bad fall, went up for a header and landed in the dugout, and he dismantled his hand quite seriously. And it was an oxygen and air, and he had to be taken off. He's only recovering now with a cast on, and he's putting himself up to play. because basically Millwall are up. Young players will be like, I'll have another 6 weeks, but he's putting himself up to play with a cast on, and they're the sort of people that we want. They'll play through it. So look, Webster's fit now. He needs to get back in the team with Mitchell in there. But again, his experience and him and Trotter's experience for the club is vital in such an important time of the season.
And what about yourself, Al? Have you hung your boots up now, you're assistant manager, because you was player coach, or you're going to keep yourself in the squad for a cameo at Wembley, maybe come on and score the winning penalty or something?
Retirement for some reason. I've never had an official retirement, and I don't ever want to officially retire. I've been retired 2 years. I've not played for probably 2 years, but I don't want to say I'm officially retired in case that one time I have to put my boots on. But yeah, I was first team coach. I've done a 4 or 5 year first team player coach. I've now been moved to assistant. I'm learning my trade. The best way, I think, to learn your trade in the lower leagues, because you have to do everything yourself. You don't have analysts or scouts. You do everything yourself. So your knowledge is far more advanced than it would be if I was to go and get a Mill 16-18s job, because everything's done for you. My knowledge and working is myself, so I'm learning a lot quicker, and I enjoy it. Bromley's like a very similar club to Millwall in the National League, where we're a club punching above our weight in a league where we're not the biggest budget, but we're overachieving. And I think Millwall are the same. They're in a championship club where big money spent, biggest prize in the league in the world, and they're overachieving. I think they are overachieving based on their current budget.
I mean it though, Al. Keep your boots there, because I've seen you take penalties, and I wondered why you didn't take more for us.
Oh, I missed one at Southampton on the telly, and we scored from a corner with Jimmy Abdou, and I never took one after that. And yeah, I did take a couple, and 23 goals, 2 of them were penalties, and one in a cup game in extra time, and in a penalty shootout. I'm going to count that, so 24 goals. I'm going to go.
Fancy missing one on the telly. I can't believe that.
No.
Going back to the Millwall 1-23s, Alan. You obviously started as an 8-year-old and came up through the ranks. What advice would you give to anyone doing that? Because we've had one young player not being retained already this season, and I know we've got 2 young Lion Cubs who listen to this show, Reece and Callum. What would you say to them?
This question many times in football, and there's probably 600 players that are contracted in this season who'll be out of work. And young lads, football's an opinion-based game, so everyone's got an opinion on someone, and sometimes someone's opinion's not right, and it is based on opinion. And I think in football and in life, there's always bumps in the road. It's never, life doesn't go, and the same as football, life isn't one just uphill thing. It doesn't work like that. There's always going to be bumps in life and in football, and it's how you overcome them bumps. Someone might say no, someone might say yes. And if it's meant to be, and you deserve it, and you work hard enough, you'll get luck. And if that's not in football, another door will open for you, and you'll get what you deserve in another way. And I always say that to young boys: if you put the hard work in, and it don't work out in football, I guarantee you another door will open in life that will give you success in something else, because you've earned from hard work. So graft and graft and graft. If it ain't meant to be, another door will open, and it will lead you into something that is meant to be. And I'm a fair believer in that. If it's not football, it'll be something else. If it is football, I remember a boy at Mill, Jake Gallagher, and he was a player that went on to have a career, not a massive career, a player at Mill, and I thought, and he was never the best player. And he used to always be out on his own, running and grafting. He went to Aldershot and played a load of National League games and earned a few £100 a week. And he made that from just hard work. So that door opened for him because he earned it from just hard work. So never give up and always expect the bumps, because I had many bumps, and in life you'll get many bumps, and expect that, because life ain't just one big roller coaster of joy and success. It's not reasonable. It's not realistic. Sorry.
No, I'll make you right on that, because look at Eze. I mean, everyone goes on about how we got rid of him, but 6-7 clubs turned him away before he's actually made it at QPR.
Exactly that. So he obviously got his head down and another door open. So one person's opinion doesn't define your future or your career, and you have to understand that. And I know it's easy enough saying it, but believe me, one person's opinion or two people's opinion will not define your career. Football is about opinions, and not everyone is always going to be right.
Talking about opinions, Alan, you obviously heard the result last Saturday up at Birmingham/Coventry. How would you have reacted if that had been your team on the last game of the season when they were
I would have got a red card for sure. Definitely got a red card. Look, last game of the season is always a funny one. If there's nothing to play for either side, sometimes it is you're on your holiday. There's a saying, you're on your holidays. You play players that might need minutes to have a look at. It's a nothing game. I'd never accept a 6-1 defeat, and I don't think it's right. You'd never want to concede. I used to hate conceding one, but it's the last game of the season. It made it. I thought the season was a fairly good season, and it just ended in a sour taste with that. If I'm in my honest opinion, with that 6-1 defeat, because last game of the season, you want to take something into the next season. So a bit of a sour taste, but what I thought was a good season for Millwall, considering the change.
I agree, and I can see why now why Gary Rowett was playing Williams towards the end, and obviously he was getting him in the shop window for his next move. But would I say a few words about him?
Shaun Willow, one exceptional player, very talented footballer who was incredible, incredibly talented player, very quiet lad, Irish lad like myself. Really got on with him, really liked him, good character, honest lad, not a bad bone in his body, great servant to Millwall, and he done his service. And I think we all should applaud him and wish him success in the future, because he was nothing but give it all for his badge, and everyone comes to an end at some point. Everyone's time comes to an end at some point, and I think players that have earned their rights for the badge, and we have to respect them players, because they haven't just come and taken their money. He gave his all for the club, and us as Millwall fans, we have to sort of respect that and appreciate what he gave for us.
That brings us on. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and I hope he's obviously not been there long enough to get a testimonial, but I hope us as fans, we get a chance to say goodbye to him properly, because your words are the same as the fans, and I appreciate everything he's done for the club.
Yeah, I'm sure Willow will be back at some point, and I never got to say a proper goodbye, and I'm sure he'll want to say proper goodbye. And in football, it's ruthless, and do you know what I mean? It's a ruthless business, and at some point it comes to an end, and sometimes you don't get to say goodbye. But I think the memories he's left us with are good and memorable. He'll have a place in his heart, and we'll always respect Willow when he comes back at the club. He'll always be welcome back, and he'll always be well respected in the club, and that's a good thing to have when you leave.
Don't you need a player coach down at Bromley, Al?
We've got Roger Johnson at the moment, and I don't think we can afford it. He's still got some years left in Willow to play, and I'm sure
True.
Stop playing as long as you can, and I mean, I'm sure he's still got some legs in him to go and play. Look at Tony Craig; he's still grafting it out down at Crawley, isn't he?
He is,
That's true.
So there's plenty. There's still time for him to go, and when he's finished, it's done. So I'd play as long as I could.
Well, that brings me on to what I was going to say about with Willow leaving. It's that time of year, Al, where obviously we're looking to strengthen ourselves for next season's attack at it. I think we all know, including Gary Rowett, that the main area that we need to improve upon is our goal scoring. What's your thoughts on it, Al? I think we've got a real good solid base that doesn't give a lot away. He's brought a couple of good players in January with Cliftonfield and George Evans. I just think we get that 20 goal a season goal scorer, and we're going to have a shout next year, I think.
I've watched Millwall a few times this year, and I've watched them, and in my honest opinion, and I'll always be honest, if you want to play a three, and he likes to play a three, he needs a centre half. He needs another centre half in.
Yeah.
And we also know that he needs a goal scorer, which will come at a cost. But the demands these days of what players want are it puts the club in a situation where you go and sign a 30 grand a week striker, and you go, right, we've got the one we want. A week later he gets injured. these are the risks that a club has to take, but it is a big risk. I mean, when a club like Millwall to break their transfer and pay someone the wages that these players want, it costs a lot of money, and that comes at a risk. Millwall need to be stabilised and be careful, but they do need that forward to get them to that next level of football. If you want to crack top 6, you're going to need a 25 goal a season, and you have to be lucky that you get the right person that stays fit, and you find a balance between not overpaying these people, because some of them are overpaid because clubs can afford it, that it's a wage that fits within the club and the player's right for the club, and he ain't just someone there that after a month you think, well, we've tied this geezer in for 3 years, he's on 25 grand a week, he ain't for us. It's a real sticky one, because we all want that striker, we do want it, but it's finding that one that is right for the club and that's going to fit for the club and work, because that's a lot of money to pay for someone, and it goes wrong, and the club are in a real serious situation then. So it ain't as easy as going, right, we need him for 25 grand a week, he'll go and get us in the Premier League, because that one person, like you said, might get injured, and the club then are financially in a sticky situation where they're going to have to pay this guy's wages and get someone else in and try and get in the Premier League. So it's not easy. But again, I agree with you. Millwall need a forward, and I think if you're going to play a 3, another centre half.
We generally have done better going into sort of non-league football, your standard of football, and getting centre forwards out of there with Morrow, Neil Harris, and Lee Gregory, all been coming to us from non-league football and been highly successful. Do you think there's anybody around that you've seen in the bottom leagues? You don't have to name them, but just whisper in Gary's ear.
Like, but they were highly successful in the Championship or highly successful in League One.
Well, yeah, no. Admittedly, they was League One, weren't they? All of them, really, is where we went to.
There's a conundrum. So they're coming out to get one from the Championship into the Championship to get you in the Premier League. You're going to have some recruitment and some skill of finding that diamond. It's a difficult one. It really is a difficult one. The foreign market might be one where you pick one out, because sometimes they're the ones where you can get a foreign player in that no one might have seen.
Yeah, like a Puga, you mean, from Norwich.
Yeah, so them ones, the foreign market is a market you might catch one. In this league, by the time Mill will find one, you guarantee there's 5-6 others that have already found him, and that's the nature of the beast of it. You need to get one who's either coming out, who's been relegated from the Premier League, and who's been in the Premier League, who's done it. Like, not saying Billy Sharp, but someone. Remember, if they come out of the Premier League and you catch one like that on a good time. But yeah, it's a difficult task. But again, if Millwall want to crack the next stage, their recruitment to find them people are going to need to be in place, and then that's fine, and then that's agreeing a fair wage, which is within the club budget.
Alan, it's me again. Obviously, Stockport are also in the mix for promotion to League 2, like yourselves, and obviously our former manager Mark McGee is part of their management team now. Did your paths cross when you played them back in April?
I did, yeah. I knew Mark McGee was there, and I remember we stayed in there the Friday night, and it was on my mind, just thinking I want to pull him and say, because Mark McGee, believe it or not, there's a funny story. Mark McGee was at my first ever Millwall game I played for Millwall. They gave him my debut against Sheffield United, and I made my debut at 17-18, and then my last game for Millwall ever was at Wolves, and I was getting on the coach after the game, and who was there? Mark McGee. So the coincidence that he was at my first and last game for Millwall was a coincidence, but when I see him at Stockport, I've always got a lot to thank him for and huge respect for him. So he wasn't even expecting it. I gave him a big hug like he was my dad. And the reason why is because he gave me my debut, so I'll always have to thank him for that, because he believed in me. And since I retired 2 years ago, had I not had that someone believe in me, I would not have had the career, the family, the memories, the joy, the nice times with my family. All of that, I think, has come down to someone believing me at 18 and giving me my debut. So everything in my football career, I always owe to Mark McGee. So he looks at me as just another person, but I gave him a big hug and I said, thank you.
Cheer up, Mark McGee.
cheer up Mark McGee. We had a good chat, and yeah, it was great to see him, and I have full respect for him, and I'll always be in favour of him because he gave me my debut, which gave me the life and the lifestyle I've had in the last 20 years in just living and being happy.
Don't get me wrong, Al. Mark McGee's had a good career in football now, but I genuinely thought he would be a manager somewhere high in the Premier League at some point or the other. Did you think that at the time? I know you speak highly of him and fondly.
Yeah, he's a very wealthy man who knew what he was doing, and he's ended up, I think, going to Scotland, and then he was one of the lower leagues he was working with, and he's ended up back at someone's taking him there. But look, I think he's had his time, Mark McGee. I think he loves football. He loves being in it, and I think everyone has a sell-by date without being disrespectful, and I think it's just the game's moved on, and I think his knowledge and experience is helping him, would help, but I think as being the main man in big situations, I just think the game might have moved on past him, if I'm being honest. For that role, I mean.
Yeah.
Lastly, Alan, before you go, it's a tradition on the show that guests provide a prediction for our next match, but obviously since our season's over, who do you fancy to win the European Championships this summer?
Well, it's not going to be Ireland, is it? So I know that one for sure. I like Belgium. I like Belgium. I have De Bruyne and Hazard, and I'd like England to get to the final four. But you know what England are like. They'll do well in the early stages, and then it comes to the crunch games, and teams seem to have a little bit more know-how, a little bit more, which we haven't got as a country. I mean, they can cheat and find ways of winning games, and we're too honest as a country. The top teams to win World Cups and other World Cups have 10 boxes ticked. We might only have 7 or 8, and then we're relying on them. The top clubs and the top countries in the world and Europe will have 10 boxes, and that will include diving, cheating, winning fouls, all of the things that you need to win big competitions. And I just think we're just not there yet as a country. But Belgium, I think, are a club that if I was to put a bet on, I'd say Belgium.
You don't think the Wembley advantage might help us, especially if we can get people back in the stadium after the year that we've had?
Well, yeah, if you get to Wembley, that will always be an advantage for you. But then again, the teams that are playing in these competitions are probably already playing England, so a lot of the players, so it wouldn't be a huge advantage. But again, the home crowd of England. Look, if we get to the final, we'll win it, I think. It's getting to the final.
I don't care as long as we get past Scotland.
Well, thanks again, Alan, for coming on the show. All the best to you, your family, and to Bromley ahead of the end of the season, and hopefully for the playoffs. And I'm certain that we'll be able to catch up again soon for more stories and thoughts on the Lions down the line.
Brilliant, guys. Look, it's great to talk to you as always, and enjoy your break in the summer, and I wish you well, and look forward to speaking to you again.
Cheers, Alan.
Yeah, all the best for Bromley, Al.
Take care, Alan.
Good luck, Alan. Take care, mate.
We're going to take a break there before we listen to what's going on with Millwall Lionesses and the Millwall Romans. But first, here's Bethany Warren talking about an app for the blind or partially sighted.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall Lionesses have partnered with international smartphone application Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an application that truly benefits the poor of sight and the blind, but is supported by those of us that can see.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available number.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it well present?
Yes,
This is a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Ripped image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Be My Eyes is displayed on the Lionesses shorts this season. Download the app onto your smartphone now and help those that need your eyes straight away.
I'm James Kelly, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Gary Staff, Ted Robinson and Patricia Maslin. Be My Eyes has 4.7 million volunteers with in excess of 300,000 blind and low vision users in more than 150 countries, and they provide the service in 180 different languages. Incredible, and so many volunteers, what human kindness. Both the Millwall Lionesses and Romans are playing, but without fans. Let's hear from Luke Sheppard from Millwall Romans talking with Eamon.
We're joined by Millwall Romans newbie Luke Sheppard, who plays at left or right back for the Romans, and joined the Romans from an LGBT plus Yorkshire side. But first of all, Luke, tell us about how it went against Stonewall at the weekend.
Yeah, it was a good game, very hard game against Stonewall. We always knew they were going to be tough competition, as they're quite near us in the league. Defensively, from our side, it was one of the best performances I've seen since March, since joining the club. Very strong at centre-back, and the keeper was on top form too. It was a tough battle between midfield, and then the goal was 50-50 really. It could have come at both ends, but luckily our striker was on the better form.
And who struck the winner?
Seb struck the winner.
Yeah, great. So onwards and upwards for the Romans. Not a defeat since you returned to football. But tell us, Luke, what was it like? Because you played against the Romans when you played for the Yorkshire side. What's it like from being up there in Yorkshire and being part of the Millwall family?
Yeah, it is good. It's completely different because the Yorkshire side didn't sort of have a sponsor. We had to do the sort of like to get charity or like funds for the club ourselves. So we did stuff like calendars or like hosted leagues. Whereas being new to Millwall and actually joining the team, like all the kits are provided, our training grounds provided. We've got a good culture with the team and so many more players compared to Yorkshire because it strikes up an interest. It's a good community and a great family.
Well, that ain't too bad. Usually we hear from Tom Baker, who does your interviews, but unfortunately it looks like Tom's got his leg wrapped up with ligament damage. We hope that he gets better and gets back playing as well. Luke, tell us, who's you got coming up this weekend?
Yeah, so we face Soho this weekend, which we've had some good results in the past. So I'm looking forward to the next game on Sunday.
Great, and we'll look forward to hear, I'm sure, another positive result. Thanks, Luke. Take care. Send our best to all the gang. Bye now.
Cheers, bye.
Sounds good for the Romans, unbeaten in returning to football. The Millwall Lionesses faced West Ham United Academy this weekend. Here's what Michael Avery of their media team had to say about the game. The result of the weekend was a 3-3 draw. It was a really close game, and at one point the Lionesses were 3-1 up. But at the end it was ultimately down to fitness levels that got the Hammers back in the game. 2 goals from Shannon Drew, which included an excellent long-range free kick, and a strike from Abby Dell saw the Lionesses take the lead. But 2 goals from West Ham saw it end all square. At times it was a very fiery game, which fans of both Millwall and West Ham could be proud of. But the game was played in the right spirits and both teams were a credit to their clubs. Thanks, Michael. That was a good result when you think they were up against Women's Super League potential. Shame we couldn't get to watch it. This weekend they face Hutton, a team they defeated back in September. Before our second guest joins us, we're going to take a break, and for now, here's Bethany Warren talking about a great story that is born out of the passing of a goalkeeping star of women's football, Jordan Dawes, and her cousin's effort to raise money in her memory.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall fans Danielle and James will be running the London Landmark Half Marathon in August, in memory of Danielle's cousin, Jordan Dawes. Listen to Danielle tell her story.
Hello, so I am running the London Landmark Half Marathon in August. While training for Tough Mudder, which I'm doing in September, I feel I got the bug for running. I wanted to give myself a challenge and while raising money for Eleanor. Jordan's memory lives on forever, and as a family, we honour her memory by giving back to the charities that gave their care and support during the darkest of times. Jordan lost her battle to cancer in 2019. She was a keen footballer, playing for the likes of Charlton Athletic, Gillingham, and ending her football career at Kent Football United. One of the most memorable times for me and the family when watching Jordan play was when she actually saved a penalty in a cup final, leading Kent Football United to win. She was an infectious person to be around. Her smile lit up the room. She was keen in talking to James about Millwall. She would come with us as of when she can. And the last game that she actually went to was the FA Cup game against Everton, where Millwall actually spoilt her, made her feel really special. She was able to meet some of the players, have her pictures taken with the keeper at the time, and was actually given the treatment of being able to go into the exec lounge as well. The way that people can donate, and we really would appreciate if anyone can, big, small, whatever it is through my pinned tweet on Twitter. My Twitter handle is DannyL1206, and that is DANNIL1206. Or you can go through Just Giving website, that is justgiving.com/fundraising/Jordan Dawes Half Marathon. Just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen and anyone that donates, so thank you.
What a story, and what a lovely couple Danielle and James are in doing this together. So, if you can help, you can just put James and Danielle fundraising for Eleanor, that is ELLENOR, into your browser, and the Just Giving page will be shown. I'll say that again. Just put James and Danielle fundraising for Eleanor, that is ELLENOR, into your browser, and the Just Giving page will be shown. Thank you. A link will also be in our announcements on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm James Kelly, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Patricia Maslin, Gary Staff and Ted Robinson. Eleanor is Kent-based care service who, for children and young adults, extends to the London Borough of Bexley. They are the only charity in the county who provide hospice care for people of all ages, and their care includes the widest range of care possible. If you can, support Danielle and James' effort in the memory of Millwall fan Jordan, you will make a massive difference. Our second guest tonight joins us as an acknowledged Millwall insider, and he joins us as we discuss our season gone. So without further ado, I can say he's a young man who has shown his talent as a pre- and post-match YouTube star, and has covered interviews with players from our past. It's that young man from Millwall Fan TV and based in Bromley that we welcome to the show. Hello once again, Kai Bennet.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Evening, Kai. How's it going?
Evening, Kai.
Hey, Kai.
Hello, how are you? How are you all doing?
Very well, thanks. Kai, I think I know the answer to this, but were you surprised about our defeat against Coventry this weekend gone?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought after such a good performance against Bristol City, I thought we were going to finish the season off strong. Because the top 10 finish was still in sight had we have won, and I think if we would have won, we could have overtaken Middlesbrough. They lost 3-0 to Wickham, didn't they? So yeah, that was really disappointing. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect such a heavy loss either. Even if we did lose, and I thought once we got back into the game through that own goal, I thought we'd come back stronger. But it wasn't meant to be, and we'll look forward to next season now.
Patricia, obviously Bartosz Białkowski winning Player of the Season again. How did you see that? Do you think it was justified? Do you have a different opinion?
Well, no doubt Bart did really well this season. I'm not denying that. And he probably did deserve it. I just think it's a shame that for 2 years running, our best player has been our goalkeeper. I didn't vote for Bart. I put my hands up to that. I actually voted for Jed. I just think he's been as valuable to us, and it was about time he was showing some recognition for his time with us and our loyalty to us.
Ted, obviously, as Patricia said, she voted for Jed, who finished second in the poll, and Danny McNamara, of course, won Player of the Season. Do you think that's a fair vote?
I think the three that finished. Shaun Hutchinson was. I think if he hadn't got injured when he did and finished the season the way he'd been going, he'd probably been my Player of the Season. If I'm honest, I think he's been outstanding, and I understand what Pat says about Jed because they're the glamour boys, as we defenders used to call them, the people up there, and Jed she's right in some respects. He does deserve some sort of recognition for the way he's been over the last few years. But I thought Shaun Hutchinson had been outstanding all season. But I'd like to mention Danny McNamara, bearing in mind he's got a young player having come back and took his chance so well. Maybe Billy Mitchell, if he'd have been a bit luckier with his injuries, could have, equally been deserving of the Young Player of the Year. But Danny's made such a good impression since he's come in, and he looks like we've got a real bright prospect on our hands.
Yeah, I agree with that. Gary, what about you?
I did vote for Bart. He has been outstanding. I can only imagine how he feels after that six that went past him, but maybe he was on the beach as well. But I think, as I said earlier on, his comments earlier after the Bristol City game came back and bit him on the bum a little bit there. But just thinking through the team, the only standout really players were that have been consistent all season: Cooper, Hutchinson, Jed Wallace. I know this might be a controversial one, but I think Woods had a very good season. I know you can't vote someone who's on loan, but I think he had a very good season. Tried into the mix as well.
I think you could throw Scott Malone in as well.
I think you can vote for loanees now. I think that.
I thought it was just any player that's been here for at least over half the season. Yeah,
it used to be you couldn't, but I think they changed it.
Okay.
What about you, Kai?
Kai? What do you think?
I think that Bart was deserving of the award, but I actually voted for Shaun Hutchinson. I thought he's been brilliant this season, but no, Bart deserves it as well. I think without Bart, it could have been a very different season, especially when we were, with the 1 in 15, when we won one game in 15. A lot of them were draws, but had Bart not been, there for us, maybe potentially there could have been a few more defeats in there as well. So I think Bart is definitely deserving. Obviously, I voted Shaun Hutchinson because I thought he had a very, very good season. He was, he's back to his best. It was really disappointing to see him get injured. But yeah, Bart was deserving, of course.
I think there's one more for a little mention, James, and that was Ryan Leonard. I thought Ryan Leonard was having his best season with us.
I would say Ryan Leonard has been our most improved player this year. It's just been very unfortunate for him, obviously being injured for a significant period of time for it. But next season, I think it's going to be a really big year for him.
And what's a little bit unfortunate for Ryan as well is he's a bit versatile, but on this particular season, when he has been asked to play, whether it was at a right back or where he was doing his best performances in midfield, I thought he'd been sort of by far his most consistent for us and was pretty outstanding in a few games.
Yeah, for sure. Many have called for our younger players to be blooded since we secured our championship status, but obviously we didn't do that. Do we think that was a lost opportunity? And if you don't, why not? Gary, let's start with you. What do you think?
I was just talking offline a few moments ago, and you mentioning Alex Mitchell with Alan Dunne earlier in the podcast. But then you've got Tyler Burry, you've got McNamara, you've got Mitchell, you've got Hayden Muller. You've got at least 5, 6, 7 players coming through. I, for one, think Gary Rowett made the right decision, playing the strongest team, because that's going to be the crux of our team next season. Start building a future. Yes, okay, we're probably not going to have Wood. I know Willow's now gone, and one or two of them leaving, but that main 8 or 9 players are going to be our main team next season. Great news we're hearing about Scott Malone signing on, which a revelation. Some players just like Morrow just fit in our setup, and I think Scott Malone this season has been brilliant. And to be honest, I followed his career since he left us. He's played Premiership, but he's never really set the world alight like he has again this season for us. So I'm pleased to have him back, hopefully. But I think Gary has made the right decision, keeping the main crux of the team, getting to know each other, learning how each other playing, and getting familiarity, because that brings success.
Yeah, I agree. I think entrusting the youth, as long as having experience, is a very good way of looking at it. Kai, what do you think?
I think Gary Rowett made the right choice because I think we need to try and finish the season as strong as possible to build momentum for next year. Obviously, I know the last game didn't go that way, but if we had played too many youngsters, potentially we could have fallen down the table and maybe not finished in the top half. I think there maybe was a bit of a lost opportunity not giving Hayden Muller more of a go. But then again, Danny McNamara and Billy Mitchell were both given really good runs in the side, so it's really good to see them two progressing well. Will one or two head out on loan next year? We'll have to wait and see. But personally, I think Gary made the right choice doing that. I think it's important to build the team and continue to get them playing together, and I think that will help for next year. But could we have played one or two more youngsters, maybe Hayden Muller, someone like that? Because when Hutchinson got injured, that might have been the perfect opportunity to play Hayden Muller. But I think we're going to see a lot more of Hayden Muller. I'm looking forward to it. He looks a good player.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking before the show about potential players that could maybe go out on loan next season, get minutes in. Ted, what do you think? Do you think that we should be looking at that as an option, or maybe even bringing some of them through next season?
Yeah, definitely, James. But I mean, the thing is, I remember a season when Stephen Reid was playing for us, and he looked a bit like Tyler Bury when he was playing for us. Not a little bit naive at the time and whatever. And he went away in a closed season, and he seemed to get about 3 foot taller, a lot stronger, and came back. He disappeared a boy and came back a man. So there's a lot that's going to happen before now and before the start of the season with the pre-season and whatever. And someone like Hayden Muller or Tyler Bury might really show up really well in the closed season. But I for one, James, had never been. Let's just play the kids. Let's get them in and whatever. Them kids have got to learn how to earn their position in the first team. You can't just go in and have a game in the first team because you're a young player. You've got to be, with the manager's faults, this is, worthy of a place in the team. And I think Gary Rowett done it the right way. It's not strictly true we didn't blood anyone because, like we've all said, we've had Billy Mitchell and Danny McNamara come through this season to be at the end of the season first team choices, so there has been people that have been blooded and youngsters that are in there, but as I say, Gary Rowett and his team see these boys week in, week out, and if they are doing it out on the training field and look like they're ready to get into the first team, that's when you put them in there, not just because it's the end of the season and whatever, because that's what they've got to do next season. Come next season, at the start of next season, they all start with a clean slate in pre-season. And if you remember last season, Billy Mitchell was on the verge of being in the team because of what he'd done in pre-season. But then he got himself injured. So, I'll be saying to them boys, come back in pre-season, show that manager that you want to be part of that team. And then if you're good enough, Gary Rowett's going to put you in.
I'd like to just say something on the back of that, Ted. On the performances of Danny McNamara, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a few people knocking on the door.
No, it's always a bit of a. I mean, in years gone by, Gal, it used to be a thing. You'd have a young player come into your team at 17, like Timmy Cahill did. Like he'd play 100, 200 games for Millwall, and then somebody would buy him. Now these youngsters are being swept up from within the academies, and we don't really get to see a lot of them. We've done well to keep the likes of Danny McNamara and Billy Mitchell with us all the way into the first team, because I say in this day and age, when kids show a lot of potential at 14, 15, 16, along comes the Chelseas of this world, who, if you look at the amount of loanies they've got out all over the world, that they've got something like 40 odd players out on loan. They get swept up by these big clubs, and so we've done well to show the young lads, stick with us, you can get into our team. And the flag bearers of that are your Billy Mitchells and your Danny McNamaras. So hopefully there's a few more on the production line that are coming along after them.
And Pat, what are your thoughts on this?
Totally opposite to all three of them, as you might imagine. I think it was... Look, just quickly, I think it was a massive mistake. Those last few games meant nothing. We could have, perhaps, as you say, Muller, put him on for 45 minutes. Imagine what that would have done to the young lad, playing with the likes of Jed and Cooper. if he's not up to it, he's not up to it. But we won't know because it's never happened. And if it was up to it, imagine, we don't need to buy anyone close season. We can see he's coming on. It wouldn't have mattered, would it? And it's no good saying about the team need to play together consistency, because that won't be the same team we start with next year. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Now, obviously, as we know, midway through the season, we had a really shocking run of 10 games without a win from the end of October until we defeated Bristol City at Ashton Gate in mid-December. And our home form has equalled relegated Wycombe Wanderers. What do we think went wrong, and could we have done any better? Ted, what do you think?
COVID and no fans. I mean, Millwall traditionally have a period within the season. More often than not, it's been at the beginning of the season, James, isn't it? Like, the last few seasons before this one, we was poor at the beginning of the season and probably cost us at the end. This time round, we had a pretty decent beginning and not a bad end apart from the last game. And in between, it all went by the wayside, and if we'd have managed to be a bit more consistent, we were still sort of at one point within touching distance of the playoffs. So I think COVID never helped because the manager had it and some of the players had it, and every team that's had it seemed to have a bad period for a while around that time. And also no fans. At the end of the day, we would not have had such a bad home record if the fans had been in there. Simple as that, I think.
Patricia, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The COVID situation, the no fans. But then we was all on a level playing field. All the teams were in the same position. Had fans been in the ground after that poorest run in 30 years, would Rowett still be here? I don't know. It's hard to say.
It wouldn't have happened, Pat, if the fans had been in there. It wouldn't have happened.
Do you not think?
No.
Well, no one's going to know. And all we can say is good luck to Gary with the coming transfer window and next season. And
thanks,
really, Pat. That's all we can say. Sorry?
I said thanks, Pat.
Kai, what are your thoughts on this?
Do you know what? I didn't think. I know we didn't win for, 13, 14 games, but honestly, I didn't think we were that bad. Like, I think we probably are. The statistics of not winning in 14 games, whatever it was, it looked worse than it actually was. I thought there was a couple of games, like Blackburn away, for example, where I didn't think we deserved to lose. There was a couple of games where we were really poor. Like, but there was some games like Cardiff that we threw away, Reading we threw away, and had them the games not. There was moments of just mistakes. Like that Cardiff one, I think it was Malone squared pass across the pitch has let Kiefer Moore in. Them sort of mistakes.
Yeah.
If we cut them out, then we could have easily won a couple of them. So I think there was a couple of games where we were poor, but I don't think they were as bad as potentially it looks maybe.
Yeah, I mean one game I would actually look in that is the Norwich away, when we drew 0-0 with them, and we drew 0-0 with both of them both times, and we probably could have even won the home leg. And it just shows how well defensively we were set up in times like that. When even though we were getting 0-0s, we were still shutting up shop and making sure that we didn't actually lose points rather than not gain any. So I thought I would sort of put that in that bracket. But who haven't we spoken to? Is it Gary? What do you think?
What about the COVID situation and stuff like that? I agree with Pat in the sense that everyone was on the same playing field. I know we have our own atmosphere in our ground. Look, Gary spoke about players speak about it, and we speak about players if they can't accept it, they will never make it as a Millwall player. So yes, I agree. That run, like Ted said, probably would never have happened. But as Pat said, we will never know. But if I'm honest, I'm just glad the season's over, because I've missed going down there on a Saturday afternoon. I've missed it all. But I think with fans in there, we might have nicked a few more points, and we might have been looking forward to a playoff game in the next couple of days.
going on fans, there were an incredible number of calls across social media for Gary Rowett to be sacked, players to be moved on. Do we believe there's any validity in these views, which were slightly reminiscent of when fans called for Neil Harris to resign? Kai, what do you think?
I think with the obviously with the results being so poor, I think that's always going to come. You're always going to get. There's always the manager's always going to be put under pressure. But I think it's a difficult one. I think when you go under them sort of runs, it's always going to happen. But I don't think I think Rowett probably going would have been unfair. I think he hasn't had the same he hasn't had the same as the other managers like Neil Harris. He hasn't had the full crowd for much of his time at Millwall. So I think we've got to keep giving Gary Rowett a chance. And I think he two top half finishes is nothing to look down at. So I think next year, if we can bring in the right places, and I think we'll see that it was a good decision to keep Rowett. I think I'm hoping anyway.
Pat, what do you think?
From the online stuff that was printed, I don't think the calls for Rowett Harris was similar at all. I think a lot of the fans online were seeing there wasn't the passion there this year, and I don't think he understands Millwall, the fans, the culture. That might come once we're back in the stadium, hopefully. With Harris, it was a minority who called louder than those who were prepared to give him to the end of the season. That got personal and therefore all the more fractious between fans themselves. So I don't think they was on par, but yeah, I think Rowett got probably more than what he should have done. But again, next season, hopefully it'll all turn out well.
Yeah, here's hoping. Gary, what are your thoughts?
You actually make a really good point there, Pat. I think he has probably got away with a little less abuse, for want of a better word, this season. And he doesn't understand the fans as such yet because he hasn't seen them, has he? Mm. He hasn't got to know us yet. What did he have? 6 games or 7 games before it all went peak tong for him. So he needs to obviously get to know us a little bit better. I think because of COVID, I don't think we've knee-jerk reaction from the board. And look, he has given us another top sentence finish. Yes, it could have been better. I thought we fell away at the end. Maybe when we knew it was too far, a few players did go on that beach, apart from the Bristol City game. But I just think next year is going to be such a different season. And roll on, getting back in my seat, that's all I say.
Yeah. I'll tell you where it struck me about that. When he first come, I went to the talk he gave, and I think there was an FA Cup draw that we stopped for to listen to on the telly, and all the fans were on the edge of the seats every time Millwall came out, and he turned and we knew West Ham was still in the bag there, and he went, "Well, who's your rivals then?" And I thought, pardon? And there's no reason a person from outside should have known we all wanted West Ham, but it just seemed strange at that moment. And I think, yes, he doesn't know the culture of the club yet, and I really hope that really does hit him next season, and he perhaps, I don't know, I just hope it works out for him next season. I don't want him to go. I think he could be a good manager, although there's not much on his CV, but I do wish him the best.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Why don't you go again?
How dare you, Pat, cut me off like that?
Ted, what are your thoughts on the calls for Rowett and players to be sacked through the season?
I think it's ridiculous, to be quite honest, James. When listen, they're all trying their best, and there comes a time when a manager loses the plot, like Ian Holloway did. Funny enough, like Mark McGee did. We was talking to Alan earlier, but at the end he did lose the plot a bit. And I think we always called him for Ian Holloway to go a month or two before he actually did. But when you're in a season like we've had this season, to start calling for Gary Rowett said, look, I know what we're like down at Millwall. If it had been a bad performance, we would have booed at the end, or there's some people that boo. I personally don't mind people showing their frustrations at the end of the game. I get a bit annoyed when people boo at half time because we've had a bad half. because the boys have got to come out in the second half and try and put it right. But listen, I don't think there's been many players this season that I would say have badly let us down. So I'm not sure we're booing players or calling the players to go comes in. Even the likes of Ken Sahor. I'd like to see a fit Ken Sahor play rather than the bits and pieces he's done for us this year, because when at the Preston game he looked like he could be the answer for us. But but for calling for Gary Rowett's head in the middle of this season, I think was a little bit premature about things, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's also just a case of who could you get,
Well, that is always the case, James, isn't it? You've got to be careful what you wish for sometimes. There's been lots of clubs that have got rid of managers and brought worse managers in. I always tend to think, yes, the manager takes all the blame and, he takes the accolades when you're going well and you take the blame when you're not. But sometimes you do have to look at the players as well, and if players are not doing it for you, I like Saturday's performance, what could Gary Rowett have done about that? It's only the players that got to look at themselves about that performance against Coventry. It wasn't down to Gary Rowett. The week before, they'd thrashed Bristol City 4-1,
Yeah, buck stops with the manager, though.
Yeah, but there's only certain things a manager can do.
Well, we know, but
and you can't,
that's what he's paid the big bucks for. He takes the fall if it goes wrong.
Of course he does. But when there's I say one-off, I mean, that sort of performance didn't happen very often in the season. But as you say, there was nothing on the game, or Alan was saying that Alan Dunne was saying it was end of season games, there's nothing on it. Then it's down to the players and their own pride to put a performance in. The players let themselves down on Saturday. Of course, they let the manager down, but the players let themselves down on Saturday. On that one-off occasion, I'd be looking at them players and not Gary Rowett.
As we've said, obviously we finished 11th, and that isn't that is not to be, sniffed at in the Championship. Clearly, obviously, Rowett would have wanted to finish higher, but do you think he's the main man to help enable us mount a serious challenge for promotion next season? Gary, what do you think?
Yes, I do. I think he's got enough contact. I think he's already started making the right changes. I think maybe we need one or two more, and I think quite a few fans would agree. I don't even mean to mention names who need to move on there, really. And I think if you bring it in, as I was saying earlier, I think we need a new centre-back. I think another midfielder, maybe one or two players either side to give Mason and Jed that bit of competition. And we definitely need a striker, if not two. I would even take two strikers in the summer. Maybe, as you say, a non-league striker to give a chance on, and maybe put around in our pockets and get some money from Husky and say, look. But as Alan was saying, that risk is very risky, because that player could come on, play half a game, get badly injured, and we've got that on the wage bill. So it's that very risky chance to take. But I think we need to do it. We've got to do it sooner or later. We've got to go out there and spend not just $1.5 million. We've maybe got to go into 3s or 4s to get a decent striker who will get us those goals.
Yeah. Kaya, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I think 11th place is a good position to finish. It's not bad considering the season. I think Gary Rowett is the man to take us forward. I think I think I agree with that. I think he's already started making some changes. He looks like he's trying to go in the right department. So that's all very good. I think we need I definitely agree with a striker or two. Just someone that can find the net. But maybe you try and go, because it depends what you want to do now. Because Mason Bennet looks like he's converted himself into a striker, and 6-7 goals this season. And that was only since February. So potentially next year Mason Bennet could get into double figures. Jed's getting hopefully double figures again. And then can one of our strikers get 15 plus or even 2? But yeah, I'd agree with that. I think we need an attacking midfielder as well, and then potentially a centre back. But yeah, I think next season's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, touching on Mason Bennet, I think I read something about how this season he's equalled the tally that he scored at Derby alone, which is pretty impressive in itself, considering he didn't actually start as a forward. Ted, what do you think?
Well, at the start of the season, James, I said I'll be happy if we finish 4th from bottom. But what I will say is I'm so pleased that our team didn't give us a season like Derby County have given their fans, because that's the sort of thing that can happen. So you cannot be disappointed with a club like Millwall finishing 11th, I'm sorry. Knowing our history and where we are, 11th's a pretty decent performance for a season. And I'm more than hopeful that we can beat that next year. Kai's right. We need a striker. That everybody knows that. We do need to go out and find someone that is going to get us 15 to 20 goals a season. There was improvements with the likes of Mason Bennet. I'd like us not to rely so much on Jed, if that makes sense. I'm hoping and praying next season we get a big season out of Connor Mahoney, because I believe the boy's got the potential to be a good player at championship level. But there is a lot of reason to be optimistic about next season, and we should be pleased about what has happened in a season gone by, because, as I say, you look at someone like Derby, but one thing I always say, and I always say this, the money is irrelevant. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at a player, it's what the player does for you when you get him, because traditionally Millwall's worst players that they've ever had are the biggest ones we've paid money for. So it doesn't always happen. Yes, it should be more of a guarantee if you spend more money on it that someone's going to be. Somebody spent. What was it? West Brom spent 5-6 million on Zahor. Would we pay that for Ken Zahor? I don't know. But when he was playing for Cardiff and scoring all them goals in the Championship, and that, West Brom thought he was worth 5 or 6 million. So what I'm saying, you've got no guarantees with whatever money you spend. We thought we had it last year with Troy Parrott, like I said, everyone was saying was the next Harry Kane. It never came off, and unfortunately, that was the thing that was missing for us this season.
Saying that, Ped said, I thought, Willow, we look around Aston Villa, I can't think of the guy from Chelsea, he was brilliant for them. He looked like he was going to be one of those, but we never get that luck, do we, sometimes?
Who's this? Who are you talking about, Gary?
Oh, the guy who, up front for Aston Villa, who played in the Championship and got them promoted.
Oh, Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, Abraham. Yeah.
That's
what I mean. I thought Troy was going to be one of them, but
we had Harry Kane when he really sort of started. We love to claim him as our own for starting him off, if you know what I mean. But it was with us that his career kick-started, if you know what I mean. And we all thought Troy Parrott, and and this is what I was saying. We beat a lot of other clubs to get in Troy Parrott. He was very highly thought of, and he was thought that he was going to be the sort of guy that was going to give you them 20 goals a season. And we did really well to get him. I was over the moon when we got him, and my mate, who was a Spurs fan, thought we had the next Harry Kane. That's what he was telling me, and he goes and watches their under 23 games. Unfortunately, it never happened. I hope, for Troy's sake, it happens later down the line. Perhaps he just needs to mature, take a couple more years to mature himself to become, which I think he will do, be a very good player. But unfortunately, the time that we needed him, he wasn't there.
I'd like to have that Vinicius from Tottenham. He'd be a nice little sign but I don't think he's going to go out on loan anymore.
No. Patricia, what are your thoughts?
Oh, so much has been said on so many different subjects. To go back, is Rowett the man for us next season? I'm happy to be convinced. You can ask me that question again at Christmas. So I'm still... But like everyone says, we've needed this 15, 20 goal striker for like 3 years now. That's got to be our main goal. There's a nice little player, Accrington Stanley, Dion Charles.
Dion Charles, yeah.
Yeah, player. Sorry?
Good player.
Yeah, 1.5 million should get him. He's out of contract this summer. There'll be a few in for him. Someone like that. $1.5 million these days, it's a lot to Millwall, I know, but it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. I think if Rowett can pull off a decent forward, I can forgive him anything.
Yeah, I understand, Pat, and we rib you a little bit about what your comments about Gary Rowett, but I just think you have to say that I think he's done a good job since he's been here.
Well, I'd just like to see someone bought who didn't play for Derby, Birmingham, or Stoke.
You say that, but the signings that Rowett's made from Derby have all been pretty good. Bennet, Evans,
Malone.
Malone, yeah. Keithton Bells looked okay when he's played.
Yeah, they've not played. They're not playing for Derby. Why haven't Derby kept them if they're that good? Oh, look where Derby's finished.
Yeah, but you can say that about any player you buy, Pat.
But-
if somebody's
Yeah.
prepared to sell them, you can't say why he's not good because they didn't want to keep him. Some players play for some teams, and I think it was Gary said earlier about Scott Malone. I've looked at Scott Malone's career, and I always thought when we first had him, this boy could do it. He could do it in the Premier League. He had everything to be the wing back that he seems to have become a second time around for us. It's the best I've seen him playing. So, some players play for some teams and some don't. Some it works out, some it doesn't. What we need is for one to work out for us. Here's one I'll throw in for you. Who would sign Matt Smith for another season?
Yes.
Sorry?
Who would sign Matt Smith for another season?
Without hesitation, yes.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
he's a striker that can get goals from set pieces, which we do tend to like a lot.
Well, I'm with you, James, and I'll tell you why. Because whenever that man has came on against us, he puts the fear of God in me. I see him on the sideline coming on, and I think, oh God, you know what it's about, but how do you stop him? How do you stop Matt Smith?
Yeah.
And he will get you 10 goals a season if you play to him, without any shadow of a doubt. You just got to get the ball in the box. So I do think he is worthwhile if he wants. I mean, he might want to play regular football, but he would still be the striker I would have up my sleeve on the bench.
I mean, you've still got Malumbi. He's only played 7 times for Preston. I mean, you're saying about players play like differently with different clubs and that. He was brilliant for us. What's he doing sitting on the bench at Preston?
But yeah,
What's happened there?
No idea.
Well, the only thing I'd say about Malumbi, it was his choice to sign a long-term contract with Brighton, which he done. And then, when it was down to us, we was trying to sign him and they wouldn't let him go, he had to go out on loan somewhere, so he went to Preston. Now, if the boy really loved it so much at Millwall and he didn't want to play anywhere else, why did he sign a 5-year contract with Brighton or whatever it was? A long-term contract,
Money? The young kid?
No,
Possibly.
money. The Premiership clubs offers you a long-term contract. You're going to take it.
But then, when you say that, Pat, but then how does he feel not playing?
No,
money can't be everything.
Yeah, but Ted, some people just don't mind that sitting on the bench, doing nothing, playing a few games here because they're getting that money. That's the mentality, unfortunately, of some kids today. They would quite happily sit there. I'd rather take half that money and play football, or even a quarter of that money and play football.
We didn't want him. We didn't want him back on loan, so he's not going to come back to us, is he?
No, that's what I'm saying. But that was because of the choice that Jason Malumbi made. He made the choice to sign for Brighton long term. When he knew that Millwall was sniffing around him, he knew there was other Championship sides sniffing around him. He made the choice not just for a season. He made a long-term commitment to Brighton. So he automatically puts himself in Brighton's hands. Now,
but he done that long before he was asked to come back on loan.
Yeah, but Pat, you're talking about going and buying him, right? We tried to buy him.
Yes, I know we tried to buy him,
but they won't sell him. So Jason Malumbi's put himself in that position himself.
Well, I still think Brighton may have offered that, thinking they'll get a good price for him if he's under a long contract.
How are we going to get him? How are we going to get him? If we can't buy him. We wanted to buy him. We can't buy him. Are they going to loan him out again? I don't know. Would he replace Billy Mitchell the way Billy Mitchell's playing? I don't think so, personally. But
and you've got the likes of Keithton Beld in there now.
George Evans.
George Evans. Yeah.
Ryan Leonard coming back.
Listen,
do we need him?
What I'm saying is, if we went and put a bid in for Jason Malumbi and he came to us, I'd be happy. I'd be happy because I think he's a good player. But what I'm saying is, he's put himself in a position where he's really sort of put himself that he can't be bought. So I don't know why all Millwall fans keep going on about Jason Malumbi. I don't think there's a deal that can be done. And I'm not sure that Gary Rowett will go back after he's been blocked from before. And Jason Malumbi, unfortunately, I think unless he proves himself to, what's the guy's name, Potter down at Brighton, might find himself doing what he's done with Preston and trying to find a home for himself somewhere else for the next couple of seasons.
And if
which is unfortunate because he's a talented player. He's a talented boy.
You're right, and if we are looking for that kid that we mentioned earlier, McCormack, the kid from Motherwell, there's players out there that have proven it and done it. He's only played one season with us, and it was a good season. Granted, but
Well, I've seen McCormack, Gal, and he looks a slightly different player to Jason Malumbi. He looks a more attacking player, which is what I think Kai was saying about we need an attacking midfield player. And what I've seen of him at Bristol Rovers, he does sort of fit that bill there. So if you were saying to me at this moment in time, who would you go for, McCormack or Malumbi, I'd say McCormack, because we've got enough defensive midfield players, and I think McCormack might be the something that we haven't got.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's been great to talk to you again, Kai. But lastly, before you go, it's a tradition that we get guests to provide a prediction for our next match. But obviously, considering the season's done and dusted, who do you think are going to win the Euros this summer?
I honestly think it's going to be England. I honestly think we're going to win it this year.
Well done, Kai.
Ooh, there we go.
I agree.
Answer.
I agree.
I just think we've got a very good squad this year. I think there's going to be players that are left out that you know, people are going to... Whatever he does this year, there's going to be people upset because you've got so many talented players in so many different positions. You've got, you know, that midfield spot is, you know, you've got Foden, Mount, Grealish, Maddison. You've got so many and they can't all play. So you've got so many reinforcements off the bench and then players that won't even get into the squad. So I think we've got the best squad. Can we live up to the hype? If we can, I think we're going to win it.
Lovely answer. Well, thanks for joining us, Kai. We wish you all the best, and obviously best of luck with your exams. And we'll also look forward to reading your articles with the South London Press and hearing you again on air very soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take care, Kai. Speak to you soon.
Take care, mate.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to take a break there for a message from Patricia Maslin with an introduction from that Wembley mascot, Harvey Brown.
Harvey Brown here. I miss my football at the Den. Did you know Millwall Community Trust are continuing to help people of all ages from different walks of life and are doing so much good in these tough times? But they need our help. Here's Patricia to tell you more.
Oh, thank you for that intro, Harvey. Millwall Community Trust appreciates your support. You are a star. The Millwall Community Trust, MCT, have launched a bursary fund to tackle financial hardships. The bursary fund has been put in place to aid individuals participating in an MCT activity or programme. The funds will be awarded to help further an individual's career and potential at MCT. Shaun Daly, CEO of the Trust, said, "Funds raised from our fundraising events and donations from supporters of the Trust will support the MCT's bursary, which will in turn offer financial support to participants on our programmes. For example, helping with travel expenses so they can attend, providing clothing for young people, or paying for a haircut for an interview." Jubin Sarami, who was part of the initial fundraiser for the fund, said, "It was amazing to be able to raise funds for and launch our bursary fund. We achieved this with support from our amazing fans who took part in a month-long virtual race around Europe between all the host Euro 2020 cities. Our fantastic fans ran, cycled and walked nearly 6,000 miles. Thanks to them, we were able to smash our fundraising target. The bursary fund will be open to all participants of Millwall Community Trust programmes. We are really excited to launch the project and will always welcome donations. For further information about the bursary, please email Shaun Daly, that is SDALY at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. If you wish to make any donations, insert Millwall Community Trust into your internet browser, click on Donate, either on the browser page or on the header of the MCT website. Thank you.
I'm James Kelly, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Ted Robinson, Gary Starp and Patricia Maslin. People continue to lose their lives to this dreadful virus or as a consequence of suffering with it. Infections continue but are reducing. Even so, people continue to be hospitalised. Our thoughts go out to the victims with their families, friends and those that take care of them.
There are so many fans who want to support the club, and for now you can simply make a donation when you renew your season ticket. All the details and more can be found on the Millwall website. Don't forget the Super Saver period, which guarantees you the best value for money on your season ticket, ends on the 17th of May 2021. For purchase available online and also by phone. During the Super Saver period, a season ticket allows Lions fans to save up to a huge 86% off regular matchday pricing. Sponsorship packages will soon be announced along with other commercial opportunities, so watch out for these on the Millwall website for further details. Take care and good night. Stay safe.
Henry Morgan returns to host the Rose Between Two Thorns show with bright and breezy Dave Hart, the wonderful Bethany Warren and our comrade Red Stan Goodwin. In the meantime, on behalf of all at Millwall No One Likes Us Talking, I would like to say a huge thanks for your fine service to Millwall Football Club and all the best for your futures to both Shaun Williams and Shane Ferguson, who depart this summer. Lastly, we also acknowledge the departure of goalkeeper Frank Fielding, who was marred with a serious injury from the start of his career in SC16. And we wish him all the best too. And it's good night from me.
And don't forget, Millwall Lionesses and Romans are now playing football under current restrictions. Nevertheless, these games are not currently open to fans. The Lionesses are having one open training session for prospective new first-team players, which commenced on the 7th of April. You will need to register interest on a form which is available on their Facebook or Twitter sites to attend. Millwall Romans return to playing and training, and potential new joiners are welcome. Make contact through their Facebook or Twitter sites too. Both teams train and play their home games at the most excellently managed Millwall Community Trust site at St Paul's Sports Ground, Salter Road, Rotherhithe, and you could be playing there too. Good night.
Lastly, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there, following the Lockdown 3.0 reducing guidance, social distancing when outside, and a face mask where necessary. That's it from me. Thanks to Gary, Ted and Patricia, and until next time, good night.